15 minutes later, we called one another.
Okay, it's all good. It's all good. Everything's good.
Yep.
Okay, everybody. Good morning, everybody. Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning.
Everybody, good morning. We're going to the Parsha of the week. We're going to start this week's Parsha. Is Va'ata Tetzvah. What a beautiful portion it is. We're holding on page 117 in your book. So, if you've been following the Parshas, the last week, Truma Tetzvah talks about this beautiful Mishkan that was built in the desert, that traveled the Jews for 40 years in the desert, ultimately was situated in Eretz Yisrael, which is ultimately built in Beis Hamikdash, the Holy Temple, by King Solomon, and stood for 400 years, and then built again after the destruction, after the story of Purim, and built again. We stood again another 420 years, and therefore it's important to learn all the Torah tells us about this temple, because majority of the temple, even though the actual building was not in the Beit HaMikdash, but all the utensils, the Aron, the Ark, the menorah, the showbread, the altar, the incense altar, etc., all the Beit HaMikdash were all in the temple. And then in this week's Parsha, we're introduced to the clothes of the Kohen Gadol, which is even more fascinating. These garments, if you come on the Chitas class, you see I try to show a picture of these garments, these wonderful garments. A regular Kohen wore 4 garments. A Kohen Gadol wore 8 garments. And these were beautiful garments, especially the Kohen Gadol were garments that were made out of many different kinds of wool and gold threads, and he wore a beautiful garment. Look, as the Torah says, the Kohen L'Sifaris, that it was there to bring honor and beauty to the Kohen and Kohen Gadol. Rebbe is going to take a little bit of a nuance on the wording of the Torah, where you see something very interesting, the way the wording of the Torah is written. Here's a book. So one of my books. Take a job. So the way the wording of the Torah says. Okay, so let's start. Text number 1, page 117. So this is in this week's portion. And God instructed Moshe, you shall bring near to yourself your brother Aaron and his sons with him amongst the children of Israel to serve me, Aaron, Nadav, Avihu, Eleazar, and the sons of Aaron. So at that time, in the desert, when the dedication of the temple happened, there were 5 Kohanim, Aaron and his 4 sons, and Aaron was the Kohen Gadol, was the high priest. You shall make holy garments. The second verse, a big de kodesh. You shall make these holy garments la'Aaron achicha, to Aaron your brother, l'chaved u'lisifaris, as I said, for the honor and glory of the Kohen. And you're going to talk to all these great, because these were not easy garments to make. You have to talk to all the wise-hearted, whom I have filled the spirit of wisdom, and I shall make Aaron's garment to sanctify him, so he may serve me. So a Kohen Gadol, a high priest, wore 8 garments, 8 different garments. What? Yeah, he wore 8 different garments. He wore a tzitz. He had a golden plate on his forehead. He wore a me'il, which was a blue garment. He wore an ephod. An ephod was like an apron kind of a garment. He wore a choshen, which was the breastplate upon it, which was connected to this ephod. Have you all seen these pictures of these things? Yeah. And he wore a turban. He wore a hat. He had an avnate. He had a sash. which is like the gaitel that we wear today. You ever see go to synagogue and people wear a gaitel? It's a little bit more thicker than the gaitel that's worn today. And he wore linen trousers, and he wore underneath. Really, I'm going the wrong way. So he wore linen trousers. The first thing he put on a linen tunic. He put on a sash. He put on his turban. He put on the ephod, the me'il. On top of that was the ephod, and then the last thing he put on was his tzitz. Was his those were 8 garments, garments.
Was this all the time, or just when?
Oh, we'll soon see.
Okay.
That's what this is going to be the sikha about. That's what it's going to be about. We'll soon see what the pasuk. We'll look at the pasuk. The kohen, a regular priest, when he was in the Beis Hamikdash, he wore 4 garments, which was a trousers, a tunic, a sash, and a hat. That's what he wore. That's why some people have a custom to wear a hat. When they pray, they wear a hat.
Which one had the bells on?
The me'il, the blue garment, the blue tunic had bells on it. Yep. I don't have the book with me, but beautiful, beautiful garments, and they were made to basically beautify the kohen, to beautify him, as it says, to beautify the kohen, to make him, as the pasuk says, l'chaved u'l'sifaris. Now, you can go into Kabbalistic teachings of these garments, self-understood, because what was the purpose of these garments and what was the need of each and every garment? Because even if you look in Rashi, if you listen to the Rashi, if you listen to the simple Rashi, the commentary on the Chumash, Rashi says in different things that each garment was symbolize another concept in Jewish part of Jewish life, so to say, meaning that each garment came to symbolize another aspect in the Jewish life that maybe was not so perfect, because realize that the whole concept of the Beis Hamikdash came about after the story of the golden calf, which we're going to read actually next week, in the portion of next week's portion. We're going to read the golden calf. So after the sin of the golden calf, the Jewish people built the Mishkan, built this tabernacle, this beautiful tabernacle, to serve God. And in essence, everything that was done in the Beis Hamikdash, whatever was done in the Beis Hamikdash, was really to come and bring about some kind of rectification and some kind of atonement, so to say, in the concept of the relationship between a human being and God. But it'll be a very long class, and it'll be very to go through all these garments and to go through all the different services in the temple. But you're going to come to the book of Leviticus in a couple of weeks. There you're going to see that Leviticus is really the service in the temple. All the sacrifices and everything that happened in the temple is the book of Leviticus, which you should learn the book of Leviticus, even though we don't have a temple today, and we don't bring sacrifices anymore, and we don't have this whole concept at this present time. But this was in Mitzvah. Mashiach's going to come. That's what we're praying for Mashiach. Mashiach will come. We'll have the Beis Hamikdash again. We'll have the temple again, hopefully. Not hopefully, surely, yes.
What about the idea that the simplest things are the godliest things, and all the flashy, expensive, stuff is distracting, taking away from God?
But actually, the Beis Hamikdash was extremely the opposite. The Mishkan was extremely the opposite. That it was made out of gold. It was opulent. Correct. If you count up the gold, it was 2,000 pounds of gold. So just the gold alone, you're talking about in today's value, millions of dollars. No, not trillions, millions. I think 2,000 pounds of gold is probably close to $35 million in today's value. Just the gold. And so too, as you'll soon see, so too the beauty of the Kohen Gadol. If you saw his garments, you understood that it was the opposite. You actually wore purple garments. Those were the garments of kings. Of what?
Only
$64 million. Okay. So Nishkefela. So is that. Why? Because the Eibishter created the world to serve him. All the gold in the world was created to serve him. All the diamonds in the world were created to serve him. Not created for anything else. It was created to serve him.
Leor, no. Whoops.
So why would say the opposite? Well, why a shul should be nicer than your house? Why should a shul be not nicer than your house? If you live in comfort and you want to have a beautiful house, everybody should have a beautiful house. The shul should be nicer than that, because the shul represents the beauty of God, and God should be as beautiful as your house. I mean, more beautiful than your house.
But shouldn't we also respect that if you have nothing, you still have?
Everybody's invited to the show, whether you have a lot, whether you have nothing. Everybody comes to the show. That's the beauty of a show. We're taking everybody. But why shouldn't the show be beautiful? The show should be beautiful. Why the Eibishter created money only and gold and silver only for your private enjoyment? Or the Eibishter created it for God's enjoyment? Created for both. Equal opportunity. Equal opportunity. That's what King David said. King David wanted to build the Mishkan, wanted to build a temple, because he said, I'm living in a palace and God's living in a house of sheets. That's the way that I'm living in a palace. I'm a king living in a palace, and the Abish is living in a tent. No, I'm living in a palace, and God should live in a palace, and they should both live in a palace. If you have the money, build a palace. You don't have the money, don't build a palace. But you build what you have.
So it's not teaching people to cherish riches and wealth and fancy.
We should cherish. We should cherish. We should cherish it. The Eibishter gave the beauty of the world, that we should cherish it. If you have the capability, that's what it says. Ezu asha sameach b'chalkai. Whoever is a wealthy man should be happy with what he has. Don't worry that you don't have the Bel Air mansion. You cannot afford a Bel Air mansion. If you can afford the Bel Air mansion, live in Bel Air and afford the mansion. Why not? I'm not jealous of anybody who has the capability to live in a mansion. Gesundheit. He didn't steal the money. He worked hard. He made that money. He's entitled to enjoy it. And hopefully he's giving charity too. So it's good for God and good for man. It's like everybody who sits in third class is jealous of the first class. It's ridiculous. We're both going to the same place. And Baruch Hashem, he can enjoy it. Let him enjoy it. And I shouldn't feel jealous of sitting in third class. Because that's what I can afford. I can afford third class. And Baruch Hashem, I'm going to another part of the world on third class. We're both going to the same place. He has the capability. I'm not jealous of somebody. That's one of the commandments in the Torah. You shouldn't be jealous. So if you have jealousy, David shouldn't make the world that the world will always be. There'll be the rich and there'll be the poor. That's the way the world is. You don't want to live in a communistic world that everybody's the same, because that's not even true. Even the communist world, not everybody's the same. The guys up top, they're living good, and everybody else is living with nothing. But we have to have both. You have to have both. You have to have capitalism. Everybody needs to be successful. Everybody should be successful, and everybody should be charitable.
Can I just say?
Yes.
We should cherish wealth, but we shouldn't worship it.
I agree. Nobody should worship wealth.
The only reason they invented money is to make sure it's unequally distributed. That's the purpose.
Whatever.
Take what you want.
No, we always hear that expression. Oh, when it comes to God, the godliness can live in a dump. No, just like the world can live in beauty, they should live in beauty too. Zek Keli Vanveyu, this is God, I'll make it beautiful. We should live in beauty. Because God lives in the beauty, He lives in everything. So He lives in the beauty as He lives in anything else. And therefore, if you have the capability, the community has the capability, they should do what they're capable of doing. Yeah, but the mitzvah, could be translated in many ways. But I said the verse of the Torah in the song of Az Yasha, Zek Keli Vanvei. This is my God, I'll make it beautiful. So if I can afford a mezuzah that I can afford it for $65, I can afford a mezuzah for $1,000, buy $1,000. Why not? Why not? Why not? If you can afford, was nicht. If you can afford a Honda, if you can afford a Bentley, drive in a Bentley. Why not? You're not robbed anybody to drive in the Bentley. You can afford it. You should enjoy it. Enjoy it. Whatever. It's nobody should be jealous of somebody else's success. It's a terrible midah to be jealous of somebody else. Self-understood, we're both getting the same way. The Honda gets the same place as the Bentley. But if you can afford a Bentley, gesundheit, enjoy it. Enjoy it. The Gemara actually says when you come up to heaven, God asks you, did you enjoy the world? Did you enjoy the world? Or you were cheap, you were miserable. Because I gave you the capability, you gave cheap. Why are you cheap? Why? I'm not talking to anybody. You should live wealthy. If the Abishah gave you wealth, live like a king. Why not? There's nothing wrong.
He wanted to live like in poverty.
Everybody is entitled to live they want to live. If you want to be the Baal Shem Tov, be the Baal Shem Tov. I'm not arguing with you. Be the Baal Shem Tov. You find tzaddikim throughout history. You mentioned Baal Shem Tov. You find that also tzaddikim. Some tzaddikim lived extremely poor, and they wanted to live it. We know, like the Mitchell Maggid, even this community came to, we'll build you a beautiful place. We'll make you. He said, no, I feel like I'm on a journey. Like I don't need to have. When you're on a journey, you don't need to have. When you move from place to place, you sleep in the hotel. So you don't need to have a mansion. And there were some tzaddikim who lived extremely wealthy.
Yes, sometimes.
Because it's what's the avodah? It's what the service was. The Gemara actually says, and I'm not talking about Mezal, the Gemara says you have to make your rabbi wealthy. No, I didn't make that up. The Gemara says. The Talmud says you should make the rabbi should be the wealthiest in the community. Why? Simple. Because he won't be subjective. He won't be up. He won't be if he's not wealthy. Then people can have power over him. If he has wealth, so he can be totally objective because he doesn't need to come on to others. No, money is power. Let's live in the real world.
Today, people take bribes if they have more money for 50 generations. They still take more. They want more.
Yeah, correct. They say this the joke of the rabbi and his students who are walking at the edge of the river and they see this the bottle, the genie, and the genie comes out. The rabbi rubs the bottle. The genie comes out. He says, I give you one bless. You have one choice. I'm going to give you, I know you're a rabbi. Look at this great students. I'll give you more knowledge or I'll give you wealth. What do you choose, rabbi? So the rabbi says, I choose knowledge. Knowledge. I want more knowledge. So he says, okay, bless him and more knowledge. Walks away. The students tell him, no, rabbi, you have more knowledge. Give us some great knowledge. What is your great knowledge? He says, I should have took the money. That's a joke.
But you get it, Rabbi. It seems that the wealth leads to immoral lack of values and all.
Yeah, the Lubavitch Rebbe said, you know what? If you have the challenge of wealth and the challenge of being poor, you're right. Wealth brings to maybe not good things, but you know what? It's much harder, the challenge of poorness, of being poor.
Challenge of what?
Poor. It's much harder. It's much harder, the challenge of poverty. And therefore, Jews should be rich. Let them be rich. Let them have the challenge of these things that you just mentioned. It's much better that they have that challenge than the challenge of poverty.
Yeah.
The Jews have had throughout history the challenge of poverty. Like my father once told me that, in before the war, when they were so poor, he lived in the city of Chmelnik. The Jews are so poor. They were so downtrodden. They were downtrodden. They were to begin with downtrodden. You know what I mean? And they weren't allowed to own businesses. They weren't allowed to own houses. They weren't allowed to own anything. This is before the war. Okay? And this, right, surely. Jews were poor and they weren't allowed to own business. Everything was black market because they weren't allowed to own anything. And they weren't allowed to do businesses. It was extreme poverty. Extreme poverty. And that's why you think about it, when you're downtrodden to begin with, and then comes this force, and people were just general jump. It was very difficult to uplift Jews before the war because there were extreme poverty. There was very few wealthy people in the city. Most of them were 90% were poor. Didn't have food. My father said we didn't know food. Meat, no, it was never. He didn't know what it was before until after the war. My father came out of the war. He created a thing in him that he always had food in the house. It was always like, he had a lot of food. It was always that thing. It was that thing of not having food and be able to eat and not being engraved in him something forever. Because poverty is a terrible thing.
How did the rabbi?
No, very simple. You want to go to the Rebbe, live very simple. Very simple. Very simple. Very simple. But and the Rebbe could have lived very opulent. He could have lived extremely. He had enough people that would let him live. Would give him whatever he wanted. But the Rebbe never owned anything in his life. Not his house. Not anything in his life. He didn't own anything.
That's what
But wealth in and of itself, I think what they're saying is wealth in and of itself shouldn't be an ultimate goal.
I agree. But a person should not be afraid of wealth. A person should realize he can listen. Avram Avinu, Abraham wanted wealth. Okay, Abraham, he wanted wealth because self-understood that Abraham and Isaac wanted wealth and Jacob wanted wealth because self-understood that they would have a greater impact on humanity if they had wealth. That's the way it is. So they used it out for a positive note. To look at wealth as a negative thing or to look at wealthy people as negative is terrible. It's a jealous concept. It's not a real concept. It's just we should all be wealthy and the Abba should give us all wealth and we should use it out. Good. We should use it out for the positive thing. Why do we think we're going to use it out for a negative? Use it out for a positive. No, it's not a terrible. Okay. So I'm just telling you that you look at the wealth of the Jewish people coming out of Mitzrayim. The Gemara says that they came out extremely wealthy. And what do they do with their wealth? They built a temple. They built a temple. Millions upon millions of dollars, gold, silver, and tapestry, etc. Okay, well, that's a separate. We got a little bit over on transit. What do they call it?
Off track.
Off the subject. Got a little off the subject. Okay.
Off track. Yep.
Let's go back to the pasuk. Okay, 2:8. Let's go back to the pasuk. No, because even though we went through a little transit, but it is important. It's going to come back to it a little bit. Okay, so let's go back to 2:8. The Torah says as follows: They shall be warned by Aaron and his sons when they enter the tent of meeting, and when they approach the altar to serve in the tabernacle, so they will not bear iniquities and die. This is not a joke, right? This is not a joke. It's not that they oh, you know what? They didn't have a dress me down Monday, okay? Casual Friday. Didn't have that, okay? The Torah is very explicit and says if they didn't wear these garments, they'll die. It shall be a perpetual statute for him and his descendants after him, this law that they have to wear these garments. Rashi says right away, Vamesu in text number 2b, the verse states of the Kohanim serves in the tabernacle, clothed in the priestly garments, they will not die. This teaches us a Kohen who serves in the tabernacle without the priestly garments is punishable by death. Don't look at me. Look in the pasuk, okay? Look at the verse. I didn't make this command.
Who's going to impose death?
No, the Eibishter. God will impose them.
Oh, no.
Okay? But there's a little word over here. Hopefully you'll catch it. Okay? There's one word over here that I want you to remember. I'm not going to tell you the word. We're going to see another pasuk. You'll see if you catch the nuance in the word. In one word that says in this verse, and it's not going to say it in another verse. Okay? Okay? So we'll see if you catch it. We'll see how good you were listening, Charles. Okay, so you go to halacha, go to the law, Maimonides, which codifies the law of all the temple. He says the 33rd mitzvah is that Kohanim are commanded to wear special garments for honor and glory, and only then can they serve in the tabernacle as stated in the Torah. This is a mitzvah in detail. There are 8 garments for the high priest, 4 garments for the regular kohen. Any time a kohen serves while missing even one of these garments, his service is invalid and he incurs the penalty of death by the hands of heaven. Okay? So this is not a joke. 2 things happens if a kohen does not wear the garment. That number 1, if a Jew brought a sacrifice, he has to redo it. He has to redo it. He has to redo his sacrifice. It's invalid. Number 2, he's punished by death of heaven. Right?
Seems a little severe.
Still there. Seems a little severe. I'm not arguing with you, but that's the reality. That's the total reality. That means that these garments need to be worn, right?
Where does it say that the Jew would have to rebring the sacrifice?
No, that's halacha. That's the Jewish law. That's the law. The Rambam learns it from the pasuk. That's invalid. The Rambam does tell you the law. And let's continue the Rambam 3b. It's a mitzvah. Okay, now let's see if you see the nuance. Okay, you're going to see right away the nuance in the Rambam. Okay, and you'll see it. Okay, let's see if you see it. It's a mitzvah for a kohen gadol to wear these garments. As our sages in the Sifri derive it from the verse, Aaron did all that God commanded Moses. This means that he wore the priestly garments. Even though garments were pinnacle of beauty, as they were made of gold and precious stones, the high priest must not wear them with the intention of wearing beautiful garments. Rather, he must wear them because God commanded to do so, namely, to always wear the garments in the tabernacle. My friends, did you catch nuance? Tazay. Very good. Very good. So the nuance was the serve. The serve. Okay. The nuance was the serve, meaning that Maimonides makes a difference between the Kohen Gadol and a regular priest. Maimonides says a regular priest has to wear these garments to serve. That means if he came to the tabernacle to visit whatever, he didn't have to wear those garments. Only in the service of the Beis Hamikdash, in the service. The Kohen Gadol, the Rambam says, Maimonides says, when the Kohen Gadol came to the Beis Hamikdash, whether he came to serve or not, he had to wear those garments. That is the nuance, okay? The serve. So,
Are you going to tell us why it's important?
I'm going to tell you. Don't worry. Don't worry. I'm not going to leave you hanging. I'm going to tell you why it's important. Yeah, sure. This is the Sikha. This is the Sikha. This is the teaching of the Rebbe, that he wants to teach us something. There's a little nuance, and it's the pasuk in itself, as you'll soon see, that you see. You actually saw that in the pasuk. It says l'shares in text number 2:8. It says the word l'shares. See that? The gish l'shares. They came to bear. It approached us to serve in the tabernacle. So the Rambam learns it from that little nuance word l'shares, to come to serve. So, and you'll soon see how concerning Kohen, which is new, it doesn't mention that. So you have us. Yeah, you want to say something, Charles? I'm sorry.
So who, if those garments weren't worn,
Yeah.
who would be responsible to kill that person?
No, the Eibishter. That's the God.
Okay. So no man could do it.
No, man. No. Man, up to God.
It's a little better.
What?
It's a little better.
It's not a little hard, a little less harsh.
It's a little better.
100%. Because it's you should know the major difference between punishment by God and punishment by man, because man cannot forgive you. That means if you're punishable by court to be put to death, you have to be put to death, even though if you became the most greatest tzaddik that ever existed. Like the Torah says, even if he's a Kohen Gadol serving on the temple, he's serving on the Mizbeach, he's serving, and we condemned him with murder or whatever. You have to take him off the Mizbeach, the altar, and bring him to justice. When it comes to man and God, that's God can forgive you.
What is the definition of Sifra?
What?
The word Sifra, what does that mean?
Sifra?
That's how you have
It's the free. It's the Gemara. It's part of the Gemara. It's the free. The Sifri is like a medrash. It's a medrash teaching of in the Talmud. The Sifri, the Sifra. The Rambam's language. So Rabbi Yosef Rosen of Zasos Neach said as follows. Look at what he writes in text number 4. The Rambam's language implies that there's a difference between a regular Kohen's garments and the high priest's garments. Where regular Kohen garments must wear the garments while he's performing the service in the tabernacle. When it comes to the high priest, the very act of wearing the garment itself is a mitzvah. He had a mitzvah, and as the Rambam writes, it's not only the Kohen Gadol didn't wear the garments because it made it beautiful. Some of them made it beautiful, but that was not the point. He wore the garment because that's what God told him to wear the garments. That's it. He wore the garment because that's what it was obligation to wear these garments.
But do we have any, I know I guess it's just because Hashem said, but do we have any idea why this was important, these garments?
We'll see.
Oh.
We'll see. We'll see how the sages look at these garments, and maybe I'll answer your question. Okay, so let's go a step further. You'll see the same expression. Rashi himself says this concept in the verse in this week's Parsha. It says in text 5a, it says, "V'hoya al Aaron, the cloak shall be on Aaron when he performs the service." So here it says the word the service, and it shall sound and heard when he enters the tabernacle, and when he leaves, so it will not die. So here the Torah tells us again this me'il that he was obligated to wear. So it will not die. Rashi says this implies that if he enters the sanctuary, see, Rashi says again. So you see that the Torah, even though it says l'shares, but then it says he needs to be when he even enters the tabernacle. If he enters the tabernacle, the sanctuary, missing even one of these garments, he shall be liable to penalty of death by the hands of heaven. So again, this was not a joke. Okay, this was not a joke. He needed to wear these garments. Yeah.
So let me ask you, so all the cultures and everything through the Torah for thousands of years, we followed to the letter of the law.
Correct.
So why is it that the rabbis of today doesn't wear vestments and because we're not at the holy?
We don't have a temple. There's not a
Oh,
temple.
that's the only reason.
Might be called a temple, but it's not a temple. This is a synagogue. So we don't have a temple. We don't have a Kohen Gadol. We don't have all these things today. So
put on in anticipation.
no, you're not allowed to. You're only allowed to wear. You're only a Kohen Gadol is allowed to wear these garments. You cannot wear these garments. A regular Jew is not allowed to wear. Even a regular Kohen is not allowed to wear these garments. Only a Kohen Gadol is allowed to wear these garments. So you weren't allowed to wear these garments even in the time of the Beit HaMikdash if you weren't a Kohen Gadol.
Just a quick question.
Yes.
What is the prohibition of the mixing of linen, wool, and with that?
Yes, yeah. So that's also, what do you mean? What are you asking?
But there's why is there a prohibition of mixing of?
Well, why is the prohibition mixing milk and meat? It's same prohibition. Same problem. It's a chukkah. It's a decree. There's no reason to it. That's it. It's a chukkah. You don't mix milk and meat together, like you don't mix linen and wool together. What's interesting is, if I thought you're asking the question a different way, because actually the clothes of the Kohen Gadol was a mixture of milk, it was a mixture of linen and wool together. Actually, I wear a mixture of linen and wool together.
You do?
No, my tzitzis is a mixture of linen and wool together. So here, that's the paradox. You understand? The Torah says you're not allowed to mix wool and linen together, but then the Torah says you wear tzitzis that is a mixture of wool and linen together. The Kohen Gadol wore things that it was a mixture of wool and linen together. Because again, that's the point. We do things. In essence, the Eibush says you shouldn't mix wool and linen together. Why? I don't know. And the proof that I don't know is that then God tells you we're tzitzis, and they are a mixture of wool and linen together.
Everybody sits.
Is-
No, I will. If it depends if you wear a woolen tzitzis.
Yes, custom.
I have a woolen tzitzis. Not everybody wears woolen. A lot of people don't wear wool. It's too hot for Florida woolen tzitzis. But I wear woolen tzitzis. And the fringes are linen. Yeah, yes. So you have wool and linen together.
Is that law for within one garment? Like, could you wear linen pants with a wool?
No, it's in one garment.
It's within one garment. Okay.
One garment. So, so I do wear wool and linen together because that's the mitzvah,
Mhm,
and I should wear wool and linen together.
mhm.
So, example, we're having tonight a Shabbos class. You don't do malach on Shabbos. All these malachas on Shabbos we did in the Beis Hamikdash on Shabbos.
Mhm.
So you understand. So everything that the Torah tells you not to do on Shabbos, they actually did in the Beis Hamikdash on Shabbos. They shechted, they burnt, they cooked, everything on Shabbos.
So when Moshiach comes.
Because it's good to be God.
On Shabbos.
No, that shows you it's a godly concept because it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. So it's a godly concept. It's God. God says yes for this and no for that. Right? So God says, we know, if you know, that in the temple there were golden calves. You have the whole story next week of the golden calf. That was a terrible thing, making a golden calf. And in the temple there was a golden calf. So now go figure that out. Because that you're not allowed to make a golden calf to serve an idol. But when it comes to the Beis Hamikdash, God says, I want it in a certain place. I want a golden calf.
Why did they do all the malacha in
Okay,
the
what?
temple? Why did they do all that malacha in the temple? What was there?
That's
point
it,
to that?
because it's God's command. So too, you shouldn't wear the Kohen God. No, because you have to do it in life. That's the same point. The same point is going to come out in the way you live your life. So too, you should live in a beautiful house, not because your own grandeur. Because the Eibishter gave you the capability to use it out for something good.
That makes sense.
And that's what you should do it for. Not for your own guy. A regular person uses it out, oh, my beauty and my glory. And Eibishter says, no. Use it out for God's glory. Put it both together. Don't mix, it's not a separation. It's not a contradiction. There's not a contradiction. That here's the glory, beautiful. Why should I be beautiful? Why should I be good? You should be glory and beautiful, but use it out for the sake of heaven. So the other Kohen Gadol had beautiful garments, but he's not like weird because he wanted to look beautiful. Because that's what God commanded him to do. If God would command him to come in jeans, he would come in jeans.
Isn't that Hidor
Rabbi
HaMitzvah?
Bucket,
Hidor
Yes.
HaMitzvah? Hidor
What?
HaMitzvah?
What? I'm
Isn't that-
sorry?
Isn't that Hidor HaMitzvah to make the mitzvah beautiful?
Yeah. But these garments were more than beautiful. Self-understood.
Gorgeous.
These are beautiful garments. These were golden garments. These were golden. These are beautiful garments. If you see, I mean, I can show you pictures of it. I don't know if exactly I know how it looked exactly, but they're beautiful garments. These are beautiful things. These are especially these garments were like kingly garments. They were kingly garments. The truth is, that's why Chassidim did that. Where did Chassidim get all these garments that they wear?
16th century Poland.
Correct. So what do? They took the Polish aristocratic garments and they said, we're going to use it out for godliness. We're going to use it out for godliness. Why not? That's a signs of point. But they wore these beautiful garments with this streimelach and all these things. Where did it come from? It came from the aristocratic part of the society that they used to wear. The Polish pritzim used to wear these beautiful garments, and they stood out that they were special people. And the Yidden came and said, you know what? If that's special, we're going to use it out for Big Day Shabbos. We're going to use it out for and great people decide, not regular people, decide, you know what? We're going to take this beauty of the world and we're going to use it out for Kedusha. We're going to use it out for Shabbos clothes, etc. That's it. And that's what they did.
Isn't that enough incentive, or shouldn't it be enough incentive that you don't need an incentive, and if you don't, you're going to die?
I'm sorry, I don't understand your question.
Shouldn't the fact that you're using all these things, these beautiful things,
right,
to glorify God?
Correct.
Shouldn't that be enough so that you don't need an incentive? And if you don't, I'm going to kill you.
No, I don't think that the Kehanim needed an incentive. I think the point is that from the negative, you understand the positive. Understand? In the Torah, in the way you learn the Torah is that you learn. Sometimes you can learn the positive from the positive. Sometimes you can learn the negative from the you can learn the positive from the negative. And the Torah puts both ways in essence. You can learn the positive from the positive, and then if you need an incentive to learn the positive from the negative, I'll give you the incentive from the positive to the negative. The Torah didn't want you to learn the negative, so they want you to realize the importance from the negative, not to learn the negative. No, hopefully no one ever came to the negative, but realize, wow, if the Eibishter in essence said a negative, they're going to be put to death. How positive is it? Understand? And I believe that's what the Torah wanted, that we should look at, wow, if the Torah talks so strong about the negative, so for surely is about the positive. Truth is that that's why you should learn the Torah in general, because you would never put a person to death in the Torah. It was almost impossible to put a person to death in the Torah, right? So it was impossible. So why mention it if it's impossible? And we know it's impossible to put a person to death almost. So why mention death in the Torah? The truth is, the only reason why the Torah says the negative is that you should learn the positive. Because you couldn't do it physically anyway. You couldn't put him to death because there were so many strings attached to so many different, criteria to put a person to death. It was almost impossible. The guy had to the mamash walk in public and do something, kill, do these things in public in such an aggressive way, and you're not going to find that usually. But learn the positive from the negative. If the Torah says a person is put to death, so you understand how the positive is. You understand what the positive part
I
is.
understand all that,
Okay.
Rabbi, and I'm fine with that.
Baruch Hashem, you find it.
It makes sense. I know it doesn't matter whether it makes sense or not, but I guess it's the idea that somewhere in there, the idea of God.
Listen, listen, Charles, I don't need to stick up for God. You have any problems? 555-1212. Talk to God, and He'll tell you why. I can just tell you what the Torah says. I didn't write the Torah. God wrote the Torah. I don't have to justify Him. I don't have to. I don't have to stick up for God. I don't need to do it. It's. I don't know. I'll give you all my answers. I'm going to give you might not be perfect because I didn't say it. So God said it, and that's it. I believe the Torah is for God. If you ever hear the story where the guy is in the Louvre. He's in the Louvre. He's looking at the
Mona Lisa.
Mona Lisa, and the guy, the curator, comes over to me. He says, I see you look at this. He says, yeah, I don't understand what's so special about this picture. So he said, listen, if it's in the Louvre, it doesn't need to have your
Approval.
It doesn't need your approval. God doesn't need Zalman Bukit's approval, not anybody in this room's approval. We learn the Torah to learn something from it. Okay? I'm just telling you that everything negative in the Torah itself, until I learn it as a positive thing. You don't want to learn it positive, don't. But I don't have to. It's a possible Torah. I know a lot of verses in the Torah irk people. I fully comprehend it. Just like the picture in the Louvre doesn't need to have Zalman Bukit's. Get it? The Torah doesn't need to have my Zalman Bukit's validation that it is right. It doesn't God, because I believe the Torah is God. So therefore, if I have a struggle with God, you know what? The Gemara answers you a little bit. Moshe Rabbeinu says to God a lot of times, like, why are you writing this? You're just bringing trouble. You're bringing questions. You're bringing challenges. And God says, that's how I wrote the Torah. I wrote the Torah that should bring challenges. I want to challenge humanity. So God's challenge you. He challenges you. I understand he challenges some people in the things that he says, in the things that it's a challenge. Work on it. Work on it. Work on it. Deal with it. Work on it. Work on it. I know it's hard. I know it's hard.
Sounds like a contradiction there, because we are challenging it, but then it's like.
To me, it's not a challenge. To me, it's not a challenge. I have no challenge. To me, it's not a challenge. To me, it's not a challenge. It's not a challenge to me at all. I have no challenge. To me, it's not a challenge at all. I'm not challenge. To you, it's a challenge.
Because it doesn't have to make sense to you. If it doesn't make sense, it's better to you. For me,
No. That's not true. I appreciate you evaluating me, but that's not totally true. To me, it has to make sense. But also, I understand that not everything has to make sense in the way I understand things. Not only I understand, I don't understand a lot of things in this world that don't make sense to me. And I do it, and I'm part of it. It doesn't have to make sense.
But you could if you wanted to. You made the example.
Right. No, therefore, I just gave you an answer to how it makes sense to me. I just actually rationalize it. I could have just told you tough luck. I didn't say that. I actually, I'm learning from the positive to the negative. I gave you how it makes sense to me. Understand? So I gave you an analogy. It might not suffice you. But to me, it suffices me. It makes me satisfied. Okay, because again, I look at the Torah as a positive book, and even though we have these negative statements, because I understand again. Because again, if you know the laws of Torah, you don't understand why I'm saying that. You understand the laws of the Torah? Even the Torah says you shall put to death. It's impossible to put the guy to death, so it doesn't make sense to say the statement like an eye for an eye. That's a statement of Torah, an eye for an eye. And we know it's not an eye for an eye. So why say it? Right? So you have that problem. Say a statement, an eye for an eye, when we know it's not an eye for an eye. So why say it instead? And there's a reason why it says it. Understand? Because a person should evaluate it's an eye for an eye, in my ways. Understand? Evaluate that hurting somebody, what it means to hurt somebody. It's not only about money, but it's about an eye for an eye. Okay, let's go weiter. We got again off in transit as usual.
Wait,
No,
Rabbi Booker, can I
yes.
just ask you one more question?
Yes, sure.
So we know that the malachas, the things that were prohibited on Shabbos, come from
Right.
the work of the
Right.
building of the Mishkan. So,
Right.
and then we know now. I just learned for the first time that they did those malachas in the Beis Hamikdash. So, I mean, everything we on Shabbos, everything we do, we really do because Hashem says. But
Correct.
there's some concept I feel like I don't understand here. Like, is there some deeper meaning or a concept?
No, the concept is
explains?
whatever Hashem says you should do. So, for example, today in a practical way, we keep Shabbos, and then if there's a bris on Shabbos, we do it because the Eibusha says on the 8th day he shall be circumcised. So we do something on Shabbos. The Moel is doing something on Shabbos which he's not allowed to do on a regular basis. But to do the Milah, he does it on Shabbos, even if it will be Yom Kippur. He would do it. Why? Because the Torah says on the 8th day he shall be circumcised. So therefore, we'll do it on Shabbos. That's where that's where your answer is, because it's a mitzvah. There's a mitzvah to keep the Shabbos. There's a mitzvah to do Milah.
He doesn't get paid.
He'll get paid on Matzah Shabbos. He won't get paid on the Shabbos. He'll get paid on Matzah Shabbos. So yeah, you can't pay him. You can pay him on Saturday night, but he'll do the Milah. Milah is something you're not allowed to do on Shabbos. To do a circumcision is a surgical thing. You're not allowed to do it on Shabbos. Unless it's an emergency. If it's not an emergency, do it on Sunday. No, we do it on Shabbos. Why? Because the Torah says do it on Shabbos. But the Torah said keep Shabbos. But I said do it on Shabbos. So I told you to keep the Shabbos, and I told you to do it on Shabbos. So too, to save a life, break every law. What do you mean? You told me to keep the law. Break every law. Right? Torah says, break every law to save a life. Break every law. Break the Shabbos, break Yom Kippur, break everything. Why? Because I do it because
But
I
aren't
said.
there's some
So
laws
actually, the Gemara says, keeping the Shabbos to save and not to save a life, you're breaking the Shabbos.
but Rabbi, aren't there certain laws? There's like 3 laws you can't
3
break.
laws: don't kill, don't do rape, and
Yeah.
don't do
Yeah.
idolatry. Okay, so those 3. Besides those 3, you break every law, right? To save a life, you break every Shabbos. They break Shabbos.
Does the Torah itself say that, or is that rabbinical?
No, the Torah says so. V'chai behem. It's a pasuk tell you live. V'chai behem. I gave you the Torah to live by, not to die. So therefore, you live by the Torah, not to die. So therefore, that's the pasuk. On that we learned that it's Gemara. Torah don't say openly break the Shabbat. Torah says v'chai behem. You shall live by the Torah, not die by the Torah. That's how it's interpreted. You should live by it. So therefore, if a person's going to die, and you need to break the Shabbos, and therefore, even if it's a doubt of a doubt, doesn't make a difference. If you're going to save a guy a doubt, maybe not. Then break the Shabbos. Break it, and you have to break it. The Gemara says, if the rabbi's there, he should break the Shabbos. If the rabbi's there and somebody else is there, let him break it. Let him show you break the Shabbos. Let him not send some schlepper to break the Shabbos. He should break it. He should show that when it comes to life, you break the Shabbos. The Torah says keep the Shabbos. If you don't keep the Shabbos, you put to death. Blah, blah, blah. All those expressions, right? Right? The Torah says you don't keep the Shabbos. Blah, 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 blah. He's very great. Then he says, break the Shabbos. Because we keep Torah mitzvah because God says so. That's it. If we kept it only rational, then maybe you'll come to a different rational reason. A different rational conclusion. And you can't do that. Somebody came to me this week and said, I heard you know about a Jew, a non-Jew. Who asked me the question. You break the Shabbos, even for a non-Jew, for everybody. You break the Shabbos, break it. Why? Because that's what God says. And God said, keep the Shabbos, and God said, break the Shabbos.
I struggle with this, but somebody said to me, or somewhere I learned, like, if you accept it's Hashem's words in the Torah, then Hashem is infinite. He's above logic. We're humans, so we have this thing about logic. There's so much of the Torah that's above logic,
Right.
and that helped me.
The Eibishter wanted you should have logic. The problem is, the Eibishter wanted logic. There's no argument. Well, das Hashem, to know God, you should have logic. Nothing wrong with logic when you realize that logic has its limitations. And not everything has to be logical. Right? Because logic has its limitations, and God is self-understood. If we, like you said this now, if you believe the Torah is given for God, then then there has to be something above logic.
Different people have different limitations, and some people can't figure it out at all.
It's not important. It's self-understood. Everybody should try to learn and try to bring logic to his life, and even godness to bring logic to the life, to the logic of the Torah. To the laws of the Torah, to try to bring logic to it, because it makes it more interesting to him. It's fully understandable. We're trying to make things interesting. Okay, let's go back to the subject. Let's go back to the subject. The Kohen Gadol's garments. We'll go back to. So here's another interesting expression it's expression in the Torah. You'll see it a couple of times. Let me see if anybody grabs this expression in the Torah. Okay. So here, the Torah says, you shall put the 2 stones upon the shoulders, the straps of the ephod. The Torah is talking about the garment of the Kohen Gadol. He had 2 beautiful onyx stones on his shoulder, and remembrance of the children of Israel. And Aaron shall carry these names before God on his shoulders as a remembrance. Okay, then look at the next verse, text number 7. Aaron shall carry the names of the children of Israel. On the Choshen, not only had these 2, so on these two onyx stones, or on his shoulders, he had 6 names on one name, 6 names of the tribes on one, 6 names of the tribe on the other, and then he had a breastplate, right? He had this breastplate, and on this breastplate there was 12 stones. right? And Aaron shall carry the names of the children of Israel, the choshen of judgment over his heart, when he enters the holy, as a remembrance before God at all times. Again, the next verse, text number 8. It shall be an Aaron as he performs the service. The Torah talk about the me'il, that this garment that he wore with the bells you mentioned. It shall be an Aaron as he performs the service, and it shall sound, right? And it shall sound, and its sound shall be heard when he enters the holy before God, and when he leaves the holy, and he will not die. What's the nuance word I'm looking for? Actually, he puts it in italic. He cheated already. Lefnei Hashem, before God. He keeps on mentioning the statement before God. Lefnei Hashem, before God, before God, before God. What is the Torah trying to, what does the Torah keeps on saying these two words? Lefnei Hashem. If it's before God, really, if you think about it, if it's before God, you want a logical, if it's before God, who cares about garments? Right? You saw Lefnei Hashem, he keeps on saying Lefnei Hashem, before God. I don't show you 3 verses. Before God, before God, before God. So here's the answer. And this is, we are late already. So let's come to the conclusion of this beautiful class, really, what the Rebbe answers.
You're right on time.
The Rebbe says on the selfness that I started this class, that these garments that the Kohen Gadol wore was a command by God to wear these garments. He came up with the garments. No, these were not garments that were architect designed by man. Look at the Torah, the total design in the Torah. It's designed by God, these garments. And right. You look in the Torah, you read the Parsha. If you read the Parsha, you'll see that this is what God wanted. That's why some of the garments and many arguments of what they look like. We're not sure what they look like because it's a godly design, and it's very hard to understand exactly what the garment is supposed to be, because it's I don't know if he sent down a prototype, from heaven, and even Rashi is difficult. The ephod, how the ephod looked like, was a difficult thing. To what the ephod looked like, we don't know exactly what the ephod looked like. We don't know from Rashi. We don't know. No other commentators argue exactly what this ephod looked like. We have to wait for Mashiach to come to know what exactly this ephod looked like. If you learn the Torah, if you learn, as I said before, in essence, these garments were there to represent, the Kohen was there to represent the Jewish people. That was the Kohen Gadol's job. His job was to represent the Jews. To bring, right? To bring this unity, to bring this, there was a separation, the sin of the golden calf, which brought about a separation between the Jewish people and God. And then they built the tabernacle. And God asked that the Kohen, the Kohanim, especially the Kohen Gadol, the high priest, that he would bring some aspect of a connection. And therefore, every one of these garments represents another concept in this fixing, in this rectification. Like the Urim V'Tumim, as it says, you have the 12 names of the tribes, representing all the tribes, the 12 names of the tribes on these stones. Called Choshen HaMishpat, it's called the breastplate of judgment, because the lack of the break of a judgment of the Jewish nation brought about the rectification of this garment, brought about the concept of the fixing of this judgment. So here he represented all the Jews. He represented every Jew. When you take the Jewish nation, you have many different kind of Jews, right? You have many different kind of Jews. Even look up today, you have Sidim, Isnagdim, Spidim, Ashkenazim,
Georgian.
Georgian. Go. The list is unlimited. How many kinds of Jews there are in the world today? Secular, atheists.
Grape juice, apple
You got them
juice.
all Jews. They're all here. Aaron is supposed to represent them all. He's supposed to bring them. This Aaron is supposed to represent them, or the color of the Jewish nation. In Chassidus, in Chassidut teaching, you have all these Jews are divided into three kind of Jews, right? We learned Tanya. There are three basic kind of Jews, right? Beginning of Tanya.
Cohen, Levy,
Tzadikim, Beinanim, and Rishayim. Tzadikim, Beinanim, and Rishayim. You have righteous, middlemen, and wicked people. Okay? I mean, you text number 9. Tanya Rabbi Yosef Glili. Rabbi Yosef Glili taught in the Talmud. The righteous are ruled by their righteous inclination. The wicked are ruled by their evil inclination. The average person is ruled by both. You have three kinds of Jews. Tzadikim, Rishoyim, and Beinanim. How do you bring all these juices together?
With a lulav and an etrog.
How do you bring all these people together? How do you bring all these people together, Lefnei Hashem?
The Kohen Gadol.
Kohen Gadol had the capability. That's why Levarach es Am Yisrael ba'ava. The Kohen Gadol was the characteristics of love. Aaron HaKohen, right? We say in the Mishnah, Pirkei Avos, have a metalmidah shel Aaron. Be like the students of Aaron. Oyev Shalom, love peace. Roidev Shalom, run after peace. Oyev Sabriyas, love humanity. Kavlan Torah, bring him through this love to a higher place. Bring him with this love to the Torah. You want to bring people close to God? You got to love them all. You got to love all. You got to love them all. You don't love them all, you cannot be a representative before God. You want to represent before God? You have to be a person that can handle everybody.
God's going to kill one because he.
Oh, here he goes. That's within God. That's within God. Let God take care of his issues, okay? No. That's between God and humanity. Let that between me I represent everybody.
Putting it together.
I bring everybody before God. I am the Kohen God, let's say. I bring everybody before God. To me, we are all, I want nobody should suffer. I want nobody to be punished. What the Eibishter does, that's his business. I want nobody. If you ask me, everybody's tzaddikim. Everybody. I've never met a bad Jew in my life. Everybody's good. I never met a bad Jew. I never met him. I never met a bad Jew in my life. And if I'd meet him, maybe I would see the good in him. I never met a bad Jew in my life. Everybody's tzaddikim. What the Eibusha does, let him do. That's not my business. I'm not God's judge. I'm not God's lawyer. I'm not the prosecution. I am the advocate. That's what's Aaron. Aaron was the advocate. He was the lawyer for the Jewish people. When you're a lawyer for the Jewish people, you want even people that are not good should be let out, right? And that's the avodah. You want to. I'm not here. You're the prosecutor. Oh my God! You're the prosecutor. Stop prosecuting Jews. So therefore, you be the advocate for Jews. It says there's a beautiful story. The Frierdiker Rebbe, they came to America in the 40s, middle of the war, and the Satmar Rebbe came also in the middle of the war, and they met each other. Frierdiker Rebbe in the 40s, and while the war was going on, 1944, and the Satmar Rebbe started saying, why is this? He started giving reasons why this terrible tragedy is happening, and the Frierdiker Rebbe stopped him. He said, God didn't hire you as a prosecutor. God didn't hire you. If he hired you as a prosecutor, he didn't hire you as a prosecutor. You should be an advocate for Jews. Be the lawyer and advocate for Jews. Don't give God reason to do. That's not why God brought you to the world. God brought Aaron to the world, Lefnei Hashem, to bring everybody together, to bring everybody into the Beis Hamikdash. That was his objective. What the Eibusher will do, he'll do. It's not my business. I work for sales, not for the prosecution. I work for sales. I'm here to get more people involved in Yiddishkeit, not to tell them the prosecution. So look at the Rebbe says in text number 10. When the high priest would enter the tabernacle, represented all types of different Jews. He would create a remembrance before God. That was his obligation. Lifnei Hashem. Lifnei, that was his thing. This is why the law states that even when he entered the tabernacle missing one of the garments, he's liable to death penalty. Now you understand why the Torah says you're bringing all Jews. Well, you're mixing out one garment. You're taking away one segment. You're not representing a certain segment of Jews. That's the opposite of your service. The opposite of your avodah. Your obligation. You came to the world to push it, simply make all Jews as one. You're representing all Jews. Why are you taking away a Jew from your thing? To create this remembrance before God, one must represent every kind of Jew. The high priest would even enter the tabernacle missing a representative of even one category of Jews. Very fact entry was problematic. The remembrance and the resulting union of the Jewish people with God is absolute. It contains no subdivision whatsoever. It includes all Jews as one. Consequently, even one type of Jew was not represented. The entire representation was absent. That's the beauty. That's how the Rebbe looked at this teaching. Self-understood. We should also look at this teaching in the same way, right? We represent everybody over here. Don't write off anybody, like you mentioned somebody. Don't do that. Don't write off anybody. Surely you're Jews. Don't write off any Jew. Don't write off any human being either.
Am I a bad Jew if I want to include everybody, even non-Jews with it?
Yeah, include everybody.
Bad or
Good. Include everybody. The God says that the tabernacle was for the rest of the whole world. We pray for the whole world. Why we come pray only here for Jews? We pray for the whole world.
you keep saying Jews?
Because I'm talking to Jews. What do you want from my life? Anybody go in this room over here? I'm not going to Jews. I'm talking to Jews. No, because you know why? Let me tell you something. It starts at home. Charity starts at home. We need to have Avis Sob with the Jewish people. It's important that we start loving each other. And we start realizing we represent each other. And then we go to the rest of the world, 100%. I agree with you. But charity starts at home. We need to work on this concept. That when we come before God, we're coming as everybody.
What was the question?
What?
What was his question that you're answering?
His question is Goyim too. I said, yeah.
Goyim to what?
That we bring all the whole world with us. We care about the whole world. For God, we care about the whole world. I agree. I'm agreeing with you. You have to care about the world. You Jews and non-Jews. First of all, as I said for you before, to save a life, you break out even for right. So we're trying to save lives. We're trying to. Everybody should be good. It should be good for everybody. So that's what we need to do.
With exception.
There's no exception. No exception.
Yeah, we know exactly what.
Yeah, there's always exception to the rule. There's always every rule has an exception. If there's evil, you have to get rid of evil. Okay, I know that. We're not going there. That's for self-understood. That's self-understood.
Maybe that's one way to get rid of evil. Bring everybody together.
Maybe. You listen. We pray every Yom Kippur. We ask God, it should come an end to sin, not an end to sinners. We're not looking to the end of sinners. We're looking for the end of sin. If we can bring a situation where there'll be end of sin, there won't be a problem with sinners. So we don't pray that people should die. We pray that sinning should die. We're not looking to the death of our enemies. That's ridiculous. We're looking that they become better. That they don't become our enemies. That they transform to become our advocates, our friends. We're not looking for death of anybody. What who said? Golda Meir said, if they would put their guns down, it would be over. If the Jews would put their guns down, it'll be over too. But if they would put their guns down, it'll be over. It'll be done. Jews are looking to hurt anybody. Put your guns down, and it'll be over. That's it. You want just like what's happening today. If they would put their guns, it'll be over. No, everybody wants to have nation. That makes sense. Demand another group to put their guns down, it'll be over. It'll be over. That's it. And everyone will live happy ever after. That's right. The Mirz Shem will beat up after the show because everybody will say enough is enough. There's no need to having a war with each other. There's no need. There's no gain out of these wars and destruction, death, and what do you get? Who gaining out of this? Death and tragedy. Tragedy. The Jews want tragedy. 100% not. Put it down, and we'll live in peace and harmony. We'll all be successful. Yeah, because they're a bunch of evil people. What's up? Like? Okay, the Mishnah says and states, do not separate from a tzibur. See, this is a beautiful word. I always say this, but here you have it in front of you. Text number 11. The Mishnah says, do not separate yourself from a tzibur, from a community. The word tzibur is an acronym for three names. Tzibur, tzaddik, is for tzaddikim. Beis is Beinanim, middle people. And Reish is completely wicked. Each person must join a community so it's complete the Jewish people. The community you're not going to find a community of only tzaddikim, righteous people. The beauty of a community is that we can all be together. Whether some are righteous, some are even wicked, God forbid. That's the beauty of a tzibur. That's the beauty of a community. And the Rebbe emphasizes this in the end of the Parsha. It says, the end of the Parsha talks about the making of the Mizbeach Hazav, the making of the golden altar that was in the temple, that was brought upon it the Keteris, the incense offering. The incense offering that was brought upon it, right? So it says in the Pasuk 12, text number 12, Aaron shall make incense of spices to go up in smoke. We say it every day in our davening, the different kind of spices. Achad osa sameneh hoyuba. There was 11 different kind of spices in the Ketoret. Okay? 11 different kind of spices was put into this that they brought up. So there's one little thing of Ketoret that they used to bring it up, the Kohen would bring it in the Beis Hamikdash, was mixed with 11 different spices. One of the spices that was there was called chelbana. Chelbana was a extremely pungent spice. I'm not sure what it is. I have actually all the spices. I bought it in Israel. They sell it the spice. That's what they say the spice. So, what? Yes.
Doesn't it refer to the Megillat Esther where there was Chobana and also Mordechai?
Mordechai, yeah. But I think the Chelbana, I'm not sure what the Chelbana was.
One of the advisors was
I know. Yeah. Correct. Yeah. So, but the Torah it says Chelbana, I'm not sure what it is. I can look it up. So with a certain spice, every spice has a name to it. I'm not sure what it is. The Chelbana spice. So text number 13, Amar Rabbi Chana bar Zavna said in the name of Rabbi Shimon Chasida, any fast that does not include the participation of sinner Jews is not a fast. We learned this from the Chelbana, which had a foul odor, and yet it was listed among the Torah's incense. So, the Torah says you couldn't make the spices. You couldn't do the mitzvah potatoes without having chalpana, without having a foul spice in your midst. Why would the Torah want you to put a chalpana? A chalpana avena? Why would the Torah want to put it in there?
Everyone will go.
What?
Everyone will go with it.
Everyone, right. So the word is that everyone's part of the potatoes. Everyone is part of this beautiful smoke that went up from there. Everyone, even if there's a chalpana, even if there's a foul smelling spice.
The United Nations.
We're talking about Jewish people now. The chalpana was included, text number 14. The Ran, this is a great sage, the chalpana was included amongst the potato spices, even though it seems to be like would ruin them with this foul odor. Nevertheless, the Torah asserts that the potatoes is incomplete without it. The same is true in our service of God. When the sinner and the
Miscreants.
oh, that's a fancy word. Join, I don't know what that word means.
Miscreants. Miscreants.
Well, again, that in the Hebrew it's Paishim.
Criminals.
Oh, criminals. Join our community so that they may all serve God together. It does not only not ruin our service, it perfects it. And we would be incomplete without it.
Miscreant is more broken people.
Beautiful, 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 my friends. Don't put anybody down. Don't diminish anybody. Lefnei Hashem, and that's what the Kohen Gadol, that was l'chavod. Now you understand what it means. That the Kohen Gadol came with these garments, not because they were beautiful physically, because they were beautiful because they represented the Jewish nation. And that's why there's a difference between the Kohen Gadol, who had to wear these garments, not even when he did the Avodah, when he walked into the temple. Because when he walked into the synagogue, that's already he's coming to represent. He's coming into the temple. Ready right there, the God says, you need to wear every single garment. You need to wear, because it's the opposite of life. You're representing the Jewish nation. You're representing every Jew. I love every Jew. Temple's about the Jewish people, okay, whatever. I love every human, thank you. And therefore represent them all. My friends, we all need to be. Today, we don't have a Kohen Gadol, we don't have a Kohen, we don't have a Kohen, and we have Kohanim, but we don't have this. But when you come to Shul, when you come to Shul to daven, to the Eibishter, you come to Shul to daven for everybody. Don't have an exclusive group. Don't have an exclusive person. Don't say, I can't come to synagogue because this guy's here, that guy's there, that guy's there. Come to Shul, we represent everybody. We're all coming to Shul together. And if we didn't have a Shul that even had some troublemakers in it, it wouldn't be a Shul. It wouldn't be a Shul. It would not be a Shul. God bless you all.
Thank you, Rabbi.
May we continue to learn.
You?
Yes.
Thank you.
So the question that I was trying to get an answer to before that you said, because God said so,